like cracking down on it. And then we watch the speech of what he says about the death penalty. Okay, so let me show you guys this right here. All right. In case you don't believe me. You know, I feel like I got to be careful. But we'll watch some of this and then I'll just kind of react. We're good on Rumble. Bible often uses phrases that are not literal. I don't know the relevance. See if I missed it. Look at super chats real quick. Thanks for your courage, Austin. Yeah, no problem. Low Flyer 77. Thank you so much. Awakening Minds. Could Jesus write? Why did he rely on others to pin his words? The Bible belongs to Coptic Jews. No such thing as God, just your connection to nature. That's such an incredibly ignorant position. No such thing as God, just your connection to nature. Okay, I got to do it. I got to do it to him. I got to do it to him. Dang, bro. You could have just chilled out, enjoyed the show, but you had to get this work. And you did so arrogantly. I want to remember that energy. Could Jesus write? Why did he rely on others to pin his words? The Bible belongs to Coptic Jews. No such thing as God, just your connection to nature. Okay. I'm going to do this pretty quickly, though. All right. So we know in the physical world, the realm of science, that we have some natural laws. Now, natural laws aren't specifically science, as science is actually the endeavor to determine a cause and effect relationship. So you have a naturally occurring observable phenomena that's your dependent variable. Then you have a presumed cause or independent variable. You're going to directly manipulate and vary that to verify if it is or is not, in fact, the cause of that dependent variable, the phenomena that you originally observed and are trying to figure out. You also have independent variables that you need to manipulate and control during these experiments so that you can actually isolate the independent variable or the presumed cause. So the three constituent parts of a scientific experiment is dependent, independent, and control variables. That is specifically science. So natural law kind of falls out from underneath that because we can't necessarily figure out the independent. We can't independently access and vary, right, the independent variable of some of these phenomena. But they're just natural laws, meaning that they just happen always, all the time. We can observe them. We know them to happen. So it isn't some type of scientific endeavor or discovery. So a bit of a distinction there. Important distinction. Doesn't matter. Natural laws undeniably exist. Okay. And they're extremely important. And they're like the most solid things in terms of physics, for example. So natural law, second law of thermodynamics, and first law of thermodynamics. Let's talk about it. So matter cannot be created nor destroyed. And that's the first law. So matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. All right, I'm just about to just destroy any atheist. It's just kind of laughable. Okay, and you're saying, you might say you're not an atheist. You are an atheist. You just said there is no God. Okay, so the first law of thermodynamics is that matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Okay, cool. So we obviously see matter and energy here in the world, or what people call the universe, whatever. So we're just going to use the word universe. Okay, so how did that get here if it can't be created nor destroyed? Well, okay, we have a couple options. Option A is it was just always here. So it didn't have to be created nor destroyed because it's just always been here. Okay, and then option B is it was created or destroyed. That's a true dichotomy. There's really no other option other than that. Okay, now let's say that because you think there is no God, then you have to go with the first option, right? Which is that matter and energy has always been here so that you don't violate natural law, the first law of thermodynamics to be specific. Okay, let's go look at the second one, which is that in pretty simple terms, systems seek equilibrium, right? So like coffee, it starts to cool off based on its surrounding temperature. You know, heat goes to cold, you have pressure systems that equalize, etc. Systems are always seeking equilibrium. So entropy increases, the amount of usable energy decreases. Okay, This is just a well-known, established fact. It's a natural law, right? I mean, to actually quote, I believe it was Arthur Eddington. That's from the Eddington quote-unquote experiment that wasn't an experiment and ended up having a lot of fraudulent reporting. Anyway, so pretty renowned guy, Arthur Eddington. I like the quote is the point. I don't really care about his authority, but he said, look, it's okay if sometimes observations don't necessarily match your theory, because a lot of times we end up figuring out that there's further observations and we end up making new discoveries. I'm paraphrasing. But if your theory goes against the second law of thermodynamics, it's in serious trouble, right? Like it just can't be true. Okay. And this is because, again, everything seeking equilibrium, entropy increasing, and thus the amount of usable energy decreasing is just such a solid staple of existence in the material world that it's indisputable. And to put that in really simple terms, if equilibrium is being sought, it requires energy. The actual process of seeking equilibrium uses energy. Thus, the total amount of usable energy is decreasing. Okay, the total amount of usable energy is decreasing. It's decreasing from a beginning point. You cannot just infinitely regress, right? And then even Stephen Hawking, he kind of brings up this point and he uses the analogy of human progression, which obviously evolution is nonsense, but let's just say that you believe that there is evolutionary progression, or even just human progression in terms of societal progression. You have to start somewhere to then progress from. You can't just go all the way back to nothing, or you can't just infinitely go back. If you're going to progress, you progress from a certain point. If something's going to decrease, it decreases from a certain amount. If it's going to decrease, it decreases from a beginning. So now, if we look at the second law, again, very quick, concise summary here. First law of thermodynamics, matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Second law of thermodynamics, right? These are, again, very indisputable natural laws. The amount of entropy will increase, thus the amount of usable energy will decrease. So very simple. Because then you get into like isolated systems. It's not just isolated natural systems. Isolated is more conceptual anyway, and idealistic. Okay, so summary. First law of thermodynamics, matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Second law, entropy will increase, the amount of usable energy decreases. So what was our question? Well, there's obviously matter and energy here in the quote-unquote universe. How did it get here? If it can't be created nor destroyed, then we would have to say, okay, it's just always been here. We go to the second law and we see, okay, wait, the amount of usable energy in the quote-unquote universe is always decreasing. That means it's had a beginning point to decrease from. Therefore, we go back to our first question. We can't say the matter and energy has always been here, because we just now proved that there had to be a beginning. So now what option are we left with, again, to answer the first question? The only option is that the matter and energy was created. Okay, what does that mean? Well, we know that based on the natural law, matter and energy cannot be created. So now we need to invoke something that's attributed to a force outside of the laws of nature. What is that by definition? Supernatural. Now we must invoke something external to the material world, eternal, external to the confinement of time, and supernatural, not limited to the confinement of natural law. So now, to even explain the very existence of the matter and energy here, for you to invoke the word nature, you have to invoke an external agent that is supernatural, okay? And then, of course, you're going to get into, okay, if it created, what is the antecedent of creation? It's a creator. So now you need an external, eternal, supernatural creator, objectively. There absolutely is a God. There has to be, and there's no way around it. Okay. Gregory May, Austin, you're looking into
Creator.
the wrong camera. I'm looking up at my screens. The camera's right here. In a world. I kind of like this setup more because, like, I like being able to look up at the screens, but then the camera's kind of lower than me. So, like I said, I didn't get it perfect. But, I'm not just going to stare at the camera the whole time. Like, hey, what's going on? Did you guys know Israel's actually not our greatest ally and they totally suck and they're just a bunch of grabblers that have an ethno-state, but then actually convince us that we should be guilty of the idea that we would ever have in-group preference, as they then flood our entire boards with major demographic shit, and then they pretend to be the victim the entire time while they're actually just being the subversive handlers behind the scenes that are causing it all to happen, and then they just act like they have no idea what's going on, and then for some reason they're always just unjustly attacked. How dare you? Okay, we'll watch some of this, and then I'll kind of narrate it. I know that, some people weren't ready for that or wanted to hear that, but I know that you can present that argument very simply and quickly. I just was trying to be pretty thorough, right? But it's just like, you look at the laws of thermodynamics, matter and energy can't be created or destroyed. So you could say it's always been here. But when you look at the second law, you realize no, because energy is decreasing. Therefore, it had to start somewhere. So we know there was a beginning. So now that means that there had to be created energy and matter according to the first law. And something supernatural had to do it. And, if matter was created, then what is the antecedent or necessary requirement of creation? It's a creator. So now again, you have an external, eternal, supernatural creator. That maybe take 20 seconds. It's the most lethal death blow to atheism that exists. And then, of course, you can get into those start appealing and ambiguously appealing to just nonsense, just arbitrary appeals to possibility, red herring fallacies, all kinds of nonsense. It's like, okay, man, you seem to have way more faith in what you mock in terms of someone being religious or believing in God. How dare you? Let's check this video.
Why would Israel have anything to do with JFK?
Who was Meyer Lansky and Mo Dalitz with? Dude, they wanted dirt on him. Let me ask you another question. Did you find it unusual that our boy Epstein, as soon as they broke into his apartment, what did they find over the mantle? A picture of...
By the way, just a quick reminder, I do appreciate support on YouTube, but the best way to support is kofi.com/Witsit. That's ko-fi.com/Witsit. I'll pin it in the chat, and then I'll read all of those tips in a second. Working on a better tip page, working on a brand new embedded private stream for the members. So stay tuned. Yeah, kofi.com/Witsit. The support is appreciated in advance. The Grabblers take 30%. I don't even like to promote, necessarily directly support YouTube like that. I probably should start turning the super chats off, to be honest. Go back to the video.
Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky's blue dress.
Right.
Dude, the Mossad is about having information on the states.
Right.
What was I'll give you another one for your conspiracy theory, because we didn't talk about it yet.
Yeah, I'm just not...
Maybe some people are in denial of it. Certainly believers here are probably the type that don't just blindly regurgitate and internalize and regurgitate whatever some person on a pulpit told them. So you probably found out okay, again, Israel's not a physical state and all that, right? So there is this thing, right? There's this aspect of the quote unquote truther community that has a little bit of Israel in them, a little bit of special boys, thinks that because you found some of this stuff out that you're special, or I call them super truthers. They always have to one up whatever truth is being discussed or whatever it is, right? They always have to come up with something, it's never enough, or there always has to be something else. And they start to just make stuff up that just isn't true. They just start to I've heard the craziest conspiracies of me. I obviously know they're not true because I live my life, right? So the point is that I think that people need to realize within, quote unquote, the truther community, that things are not always, you're giving so much power to some random anonymous group to think every single aspect of everything is super sophisticated and meticulously crafted. That isn't the case. Okay. And so stuff like this happens. Presidents, they just control them as they get up. You're not allowed in if you're not part of a certain family. Clearly, we know, because all the presidents are related. And you get up there and they control you, right? They get you to do something. They get powerful figures like MLK. So much dirt on that guy, right? They controlled that dude, bro. That's how it works. And there's a few things that notoriously you can get men to a weakness on men, and that's women. A weakness of men is women, right? A weakness is women. And let's be real, really pretty young girl, she starts talking to you. She's not super unruly and narcissistic, and she's somewhat submissive, and she's enjoyable. And she's not she doesn't come across as some super entitled, narcissistic, deluded, brainwashed feminist of the 21st century. And she's attractive and whatever. It's it can be men's weakness. And so sexual honeypots, sexual blackmail is nothing new. Using women to infiltrate powerful men is a trick as old as time itself, right? And so it's really not super difficult probably to get most of these politicians to get dirt on them. So why would you include everyone in on your plan of world domination when they don't need to be in on the plan? It's super risky. It actually just puts tons of vulnerability inside of your plan, because what happened, loose lips sink ships, right? Like why even create that vulnerability for you? It's a liability. You wouldn't do that. And they don't do that. They just have a bunch of people. And then think about how many of these people are just completely fake. Because again, even want to be a politician, unless it's just such a dire situation, you feel like no one else is going to do it. Oh my gosh, I reluctantly have to step up. People are basically pushing me to do it. And it's like they say that I'm like the right person for the job. The right person for the job in that scenario would always be a person that doesn't want the job. So a lot of these people want the job, and then they're already super superficial, narcissistic, and easy to deceive, or more so to get to do something they shouldn't do, because they're very superficial. A lot of the people that actively pursue being like quote unquote a politician or in any powerful governmental position, they are very comfortable with this notion that they're just going to say what needs to be said, so that people like to trick people. So if you pick out that kind of group of people that aren't living with real mental or moral fortitude and stuff like that, then it's going to be pretty easy to just say, like, to catch them at a party. And so you can start to see that it's really not that difficult to get these people, right? Especially if they they don't believe in the creator, they don't live for the creator, they don't adhere to a moral standard. And so then it's like, okay, there's a dinner, a pretty girl in a pretty dress comes and talks to you. Some young pretty girl comes talks to you. Gotcha. So if you're married, boom, gotcha, right? Or lies about her age, or you go to some after party, or you go to some like elite party. This is like what Diddy was doing and what Epstein was doing, and they're not the only ones. And obviously, there's a reason that they kind of got thrown under the bus. It looked like Epstein may have actually been like an organic thing, like it wasn't supposed to happen. It's hard to tell, but I think that they just threw him under the bus, but who knows? Because they raided that when the FBI raided Diddy. Everyone's like, oh man, he's going down. It's like, no, the FBI is getting all of the blackmail and all of the evidence so they can destroy it and or make sure that no one ever sees it. Because it's very dangerous when it comes to the fact that all the politicians and all the powerful figures in America that they utilize to push their propaganda and narratives and to accomplish their operations are compromised. So same thing with Epstein, right? So anyway, I just want people to kind of step back. I know that people get so disillusioned in this community where they're just like, "Oh, this is fake. None of this is real. Why are we talking about?" They just hear a president's name and like spiral. It's like, "Oh, what? This is politics is fake." It's like, yeah, politics is fake, but that doesn't mean that there aren't actual people that got there, and then like there's actively a requirement to pull the strings and to pull off different types of deceptions and then pull out different blackmail behind the scenes. That is how it works. It's very clear. The evidence is overwhelming. It's a very consistent theme. And you couldn't just tell everyone in the world that holds any type of position of power all of your secrets. The really powerful people, you don't know who they are. You don't know their name. You're not going to ever know their name. And then it's this compartmentalized power structure that's like a need-to-know basis, and then they just get you to do something that you shouldn't do, whether that be adultery, that be someone underage, that be they get so much sexual deviancy now, some type of like something homosexual or whatever, or you're addicted to drugs. They get you to just do something crazy. They get you to witness or participate in something that's some like BDSM, crazy ritual, SRA, different crazy dark stuff, right? And then they got you for life, and it just has to happen once, and you just have to wake up after having a spiked drink, and then all of a sudden you don't know who that girl is, or your bed's empty, but then they show you a picture of who you were with or show you a video. You're going to do what they say, and that's all that they got to do. Now, if there's ever a scenario where someone's bucking the system where they're like, whatever, tell people, I don't care, then now I will say the thing with JFK, it's pretty interesting. It's like some pretty decent circumstantial evidence that he was gay, to be honest. Rabbit hole for another day, though. All right. I'm just saying that to say, like, bro, you guys got to rein it in some, because you actually totally undermine so much of the important truths that need to be presented to people in a palatable way by being like a super truther and like living with your ego, and also giving away so much of your power with this like reified boogeyman, right, in the shadows that knows all things. Right, these people are weirdos that have been ancestors for years, just bumbling around, like, you know, bumping with their cousin, bro. Like, come on, they're not special. I mean, they're special, Ed.
On it. I think the JFK assassination, though, I think like many things can be true at once. I think there was a lot of things going on there. One of the biggest smoking gun that John uncovered was there was an FBI flash stop on Oswald's file. The FBI was watching Oswald. They had a flash on his file. And a week before the assassination, it was removed from his file. So he basically says Oswald being on that route in Dallas was the equivalent of a flea being at a Lysol convention. There's no way he should have fucking been there. The flash stop was removed.
Yeah, but you got to remember something. There was a reason he was there.
Right.
He was working with the FBI agent on Magazine Street. That is documented in Judith Ferry's book. See, I'm going to tell you about Newman. He doesn't know fucking shit about Judith Ferry Baker. He doesn't know anything about that. That's the reason you got to go back to him and say, bro, you're missing huge parts. I can tell he doesn't know shit about this Linak, but dude, I'm the guy that worked with that Linak. And I proved to you already that Bobby is the one that got the phone call when Ferry got killed. So if you don't think that story trumps anything that he thinks, what he's doing, he's trying to put breadcrumbs together. Everything I told you links perfectly. You don't have to believe it. And I'm not trying to convince you to believe it, but I'm telling you, this was done on fucking purpose. And the reason the FBI stepped back is because they knew that Oswald was a CIA operative.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Right.
But he was there to be the patsy, and Oswald knew it. If you read Judith Ferry Baker's book, she said it. She told him, he told her 2 months before the assassination that he knew that he was going to be a patsy. The thing he didn't know is that his friends, Carlos Marsala and Jack Ruby, were going to take him out. Ruby is a Mossad agent.
Right. No, yeah, I agree with you. And John agrees with all of that stuff. He just believes that, and look, he, like everything that you're saying about Oswald being there, being a patsy, and Ruby working, he would probably agree with you on all of that stuff. His only point is that everyone wants to say the CIA killed Kennedy. His point is the CIA was the cover up. The military killed Kennedy. It was a military coup, is his point.
No, but I think this is semantics and we're parsing words.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to realize that General Groves was the military, and he is the deep state. It's where it began.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. See, the problem is, and I guess maybe the difference, him being a journalist and me being a doctor, I look at it making a diagnosis. To make a diagnosis, you got to go back to the root cause. I'm taking you back to the root cause. Right. That's the difference between me and them. And I have to tell you, it turns out that this part is the biggest missing story in the JFK story. And the truth be told, if you talk to the people in the Garrison family, if they'll ever talk, I doubt they will, I can tell you that they physically told me that her dad wanted to put fucking Oshner up on trial. He didn't want to go after Clay Shaw. Dude, do you realize he puts Alton Oshner on trial? Everything fucking blows up. Like the Warren Commission never happens. And just remember the people that are on the Warren Commission. Like, I'll give you another example why I don't trust any of the journalists. This will probably get me in a little bit of trouble with the JFK thing. But you know the guy who's...
You're not getting in more trouble than you already got.
You know the guy he's now doing stuff with Paramount and talking about the mob and this and that. His name's Tom Maine.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this guy. Tom,
he's doing stuff with all Chicago mob. He's taking everything.
My testimony.
Mayor, Tom's mayor.
So, you know...
Anyone else, you didn't hear it from me. We had it out on that road. Had no idea how the magic we'd see. Highway diamonds, highway diamonds. How could we ever know this we're gone? Laughed and left, sold into self-doubt. Wildflowers grow wild with time. City going down. We're gone forever. They'll never find my brother on that highway of diamonds. The highway of diamonds. I that 250. Nickel ain't got shit. Highway diamond. Highway diamond. Under the stars, like we run. And we run. Run on down that highway. 40 years and the coach can fall. Here we go, the suicide. Disengaged from the tears of rage. Resonated with the lonely night. I love that guitar that he's playing. The blue hollow body. Oh my. Deep sound. Ooh. That's a beautiful guitar right there. I tell you what. My brother Keith on the percussions. Tiger standing back there with his hands in his pockets. And we run. Yes, we run. Why don't we run? Yes, sir. Okay. Let's see what we got here.
Here's some more with Shiny Ribs with a fantastic live performance of Highway of Diamonds.
Highway of Diamonds is a really beautiful song. It's got this great little thing to it. This great little swim.
Okay. That was enough of that, dear readers. Simmer down now. We'll catch you on the next one.